Hello there, everyone. I don't have a Peak Human episode this week. I had some problems with the audio files of my last interview, and I had to step out of town for a second. I'll be back tomorrow. But I wanted to put out this great clip from Bill Maher and Ben Shapiro. I wanted to upload this 8-minute video because I can't say these things. If I said these things, I'd be kicked offline. I'd get another strike on YouTube. People would say I'm fat phobic in the comments. So I'll let these guys say it. I hate all the politics stuff, but it's great to see a conservative person and a liberal person agree, talk some sense. All the political stuff is bogus anyway. It's just two sides of the same coin of bad news. But anyway, this is the stuff that needs talking about. I'm glad that Bill Maher has been saying this the whole time. Seriously, since day one of COVID, he's been saying this stuff. So I'll let him say it, and I'll see you next week for Peak Human and some other content.
I think it was something like 41% of Democrats, when asked the question, and this was in the New York Times, they had Republican versus Democrat views on COVID, and something like 41% of Democrats, when asked the key question, how many people who get COVID need to be hospitalized, thought it was over 50%, when it was, of course, around 1%. I mean, that's a crazy number. To be off that much about the, no wonder they think you need a mask everywhere. If you think half the people who get it need to go to the hospital and it's really 1%, how did they get that bad information in their head? I was just, again, giving the facts. We know who gets this and dies from this. Who gets it? Everybody. Everybody gets it, including if you've had the vaccine, which they were wrong about. Okay, they weren't trying to be wrong about it, but, you know, my overarching opinion was modern medicine, it's wonderful, but you're wrong about a lot. Stop being arrogant. Don't look at me like we've got the white coat on and the stethoscope around our neck. Just do whatever we say, because when have we ever been wrong? My answer, a lot. You've been wrong about a lot. Not because you're corrupt, although sometimes there's that too, but you've just been wrong about a lot, including a lot about this vaccine. About this disease. So we know who gets it. Okay, 75% of the people who died over 65. Now that's sad. Death is always sad. I'm against death. I don't care who knows it. And of course, 78% of the people who died or are hospitalized were obese. And that's another one that's not a popular opinion to talk about, but I feel like I have to because it's such a salient fact in this. If you just said to somebody, okay, there's an X factor in this, of 78% of the people who get it, this X factor accounts for 78% who die or go to the hospital. Wouldn't you be a little curious? If you were a news organization, wouldn't you be talking about that fact all the time? And yet we're at such a crazy place with obesity. It is the ultimate third rail in discourse. I'm talking about everything you could possibly talk about. That is the ultimate third rail. You just do not talk about it. And of course, we need to talk about it. That's the real epidemic, not coronavirus. That's going to become, as it has now, I think, become a much more mild disease. And it's going to be with us forever, as all viruses are. It's not going to disappear, I don't think. But the real epidemic is obesity, and that we don't talk about.
I mean, I wonder why you think that is, just out of curiosity, why you think that everybody's scared to talk about it. I mean, I have a theory, but I want to hear yours.
Let's hear yours first.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, my basic theory is that as a society, we've really cracked down very hard on the idea that people have any sort of control over their lives. And whenever you imply that somebody has control over their life and they have a problem and that maybe they can avoid that problem, they get very, very angry at you. And obesity is a great example of this because the vast majority of people who are obese are people who probably should be eating less and creating caloric deficit.
You silver-tongued it beautifully, Ben. I was just going to say they love to stuff their face, but it's really the same idea, isn't it? Yes, I mean, but we are in a different place with it than we were even 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it at least was thought to be a good thing to try to lose weight, right? Now, that's what they shame. Adele.
Right.
Famously lost weight, and they shamed her for that. That's through the looking glass. When you're the bad person because you lost weight, and it's just seen as a different way of living. There's no judgment to it. And look, I don't believe in shaming. I'm not fat shaming. I'm fat splaining. I'm explaining that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, absolutely. But science is not. Science is not. And those facts are unforgiving when you look at the number of people who died. And you didn't even have to be that much overweight to have a much worse outcome, having to go to the hospital, having to get ventilated. I think 40% of the people who died had diabetes. And again, even take COVID out of the picture.
Yep.
I was talking about this before COVID and got lambasted by James Corden and other people who attacked me. Oh, Bill, you're such a bad person. I'm not shaming people. I'm just saying we were never going to solve the healthcare crisis in this country until we get our arms around this thing. And we're not allowed to talk about it, or else you're a bad person. And anyone who doesn't, I'm sorry, you have blood on your hands. Anyone in the media who doesn't talk about this because you're so afraid of the reaction, you have blood on your hands because you're not doing these people a favor. You're not doing people a favor. Like I always say, ever see a fat 90-year-old? Never. Shouldn't that tell you something? We need some program to deal with this. But never part of that program was, let's ask the people to participate in their own health. I think this is what you were getting at.
Yep.
We don't ask people you have to participate. It can't all just be, the government can't solve this on their own. Vaccines can't solve this on their own. You have to do it. I said at one point, it's not between you and the government, it's between you and the waitress.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the areas where it's sort of fascinating. The way that we've treated in public policy vaccines with, for example, vax mandates. You must get the vax or you will lose your job. And at the same time, if I so much as say to you that you might need to lose 10 pounds, this is the great sin. Like, I don't see how you can hold both of those ideas in your head at the same time.
Right. And look, we all do something. Again, not shaming. I drank too much for years. But when someone would say to me, maybe you should scale that back a little, I didn't say, how dare you? You're drink shaming me. It's just an alternative lifestyle. What are you talking about? I'm just as wonderful and perfect the way No, I would say, yeah, you know what? You're right. And then I wouldn't do it, but I would at least accede the point. I wasn't offended by that. I was like, yeah, you're right. I drink probably too Irishly, and I shouldn't. But boy, you're just the bad guy if you say that about food.